So, you're thinking of building a live steam locomotive. What is there to consider? Time? Size? Cost? And where will it run? When I started out planning my own live steam build, I really struggled to find the considerations I needed to make to selecting a suitable model. So, today, I'm going to discuss some of the considerations I made when planning my live steam locomotive. Let's start with the basics. What will a prototype be? Okay, let's rewind for a minute. What is a prototype? A prototype is how a full-sized locomotive used for modelling a steam locomotive is referred to. Right, with that cleared up, let's get back to the question of what will your prototype be? At this point, you may already have an idea. Whether it's the Flying Scotsman, Big Boy, or a small tank engine. But if not, let's break it down into some smaller parts first. What sort of engine do you want to build? A mainline express, or something smaller, like a tank engine, or even a small industrial engine? The answer to this question not only defines what your build will be, but also informs later considerations such as size and weight. The next consideration is what are you going to be building from? Existing drawings and castings from a catalogue? Or are you going to design your own locomotive? If you're starting down that track, then you need to consider what research materials are available. Drawings, photographs, preserved full-size engine? Will there be enough detail available? If the answer is yes, then this could be a good candidate. Okay, so I think that covers off prototype selection. The next question is, what will it be used for? And by that, I mean, is it going to be for display only, running every weekend at your local club, or something in between? This will inform the level of detail versus functionality, as these seldom are the same thing. This might mean making space for needle bearings to reduce wear and tear on the axles, and other such considerations, rather than working to a fine detail. Another consideration is this going to be a beginner project, or are you going to build something more advanced? When answering this question, you want to consider, when do you want to be able to use this locomotive? Next year? Or in 10 years' time? As advanced engines can take many years to complete. For a beginner, it could be a real advantage to starting with a simpler model. This could just be the sheer motivation to finish a project, or just being able to get out and run it. That being said, I certainly haven't taken my own advice on this one, with my own project being a lot more complicated than a beginner's project, and the timeline will end up being reflective of that, with my current guess being about a 3-year build. The next major consideration is what gauge is your locomotive going to be? Okay, we better back up on this one as well. What is the gauge of a locomotive? Or the gauge of the tracks that the locomotive actually runs on? The gauge is the spacing of the rails. Some common gauges we have here are 3.5 inch and 5 inch, which are usually the raised lines that run above the ground. 7.25 inch is also common here, and that tends to be the one that runs on the ground. Okay, let's get back to the question. What gauge will your locomotive be? Once again, we kind of need to break this one down. So let's first think, where are you going to run it? Are you going to set up a line around your backyard? Or do you need to use the lines at a club? In which case, what gauge does your local club run? The next part to this gauge question is how big will the parts be? Will you be able to machine them? To work this one out, think about what the largest parts on a locomotive are. Quite often it's the wheels and machining the frame plates. So think about what the swing on your lathe is. Is it even capable of turning that? I know mine doesn't have the torque when it gets to a large diameter. So that drove me to a smaller engine that I knew I'd be able to build with the machines I've got in my workshop. Carrying on with considerations for the gauge question, your next thought needs to be, can I obtain the materials required and the sizes needed for the parts, such as the boiler and the cylinders? I know I struggled to find a large enough piece of cast iron for my cylinders, so if they were a third bigger, it may have been virtually impossible. And if you're designing your own locomotive, going down the route of casting your own cylinders could be cost prohibitive, even if you can find a foundry that's willing to do it. Of course, if you're going down the route of building an established engine that has castings available, then this won't be an issue. Right, there's one more consideration that I think feeds into the gauge question. How big will the finished locomotive be? How will you move it? Where will you store it? And how heavy will it be? It's worth doing some research into how locomotives of the size you're considering are actually moved around. The answer may be a trailer, if you're considering a 7 1/4 gauge mainline express, for instance, versus maybe being able to pick it up and put in the back of the car, if you're talking about a 3 1/2 gauge tank engine. Right, that pretty much covers off the gauge question. The last consideration I can think of today is what fuel are you going to use? Coal, oil, gas, there's even more you can consider. In answering this question, you may need to do some research into what fuels are available in your area. For instance, you may struggle to get the grade of coal you require to burn in one of these. It's certainly not standard barbecue coal you pick up at your local shops. In conclusion, with all the considerations we've discussed today, you should come up with a result of a size and type of live steam locomotive that you want to build. And from here, you'll either be able to get the plans and order the materials to start, or begin the process of designing and drawing your own locomotive. If you're keen to learn how this might be done, I'll share my process for this in a future video. If you're new to the channel and keen to learn more about building your own steam locomotive, check out my series, Fill Engine Project, where I'm building a 3 1/2 inch gauge live steam locomotive to my own drawings. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share. Catch you next time.